Hello and welcome to the TES Secondary Maths Resource of the Week number 74 with me, Craig Barton. Now, I must confess from the outset, I have an incredible soft spot for this particular resource because it reminds me of why I loved maths as a child. Like, I'm an absolute math nerd, and I always have been. And what hooked me straight into mathematics was not algebra or shape or anything like that. It was just playing around with numbers and being absolutely fascinated with certain properties of numbers. And I'll tell you the strange thing that I've found is that even the most mathematically reluctant of students who absolutely detest algebra, detest working out means and medians and stuff, you can still hook them in with fascinating things about numbers. Even though they don't want to admit it, give them a simple task, a low barrier, high ceiling task that involves playing around with numbers, and I find more often than not it tends to engage them. And this resource is absolutely rammed packed full of such activities. So, investigating special numbers, it's been uploaded by one of my all-time favourite uploaders whose name I still can't say. I'm going to go for something like Stroevi, something like that, but I'm not bothered about how to say the name. What I'm bothered about is that this person produces some of the best resources I've ever seen. So here it is. It's available as a Word doc or a PDF, and I've just downloaded the PDF for ease, and let's take a look at it. So it's beautifully presented, and there's over 40 of these little number investigations. Now, some of them you'll have heard before, but some of them are completely brand new, certainly to me anyway. And what I like about them is each of them fits on a single A4 sheet. So if we just scroll to one, perfect numbers now. A perfect number is a fairly common thing to maths teachers, but to students this is still absolutely fascinating. So it introduces the fact that 6 is a perfect number. And then gets them to see if they can find the next perfect number. So that's a nice way of practicing multiplication and addition with a little bit of investigation in the mix there. And then a lovely little bit of extension work here involving cubes, and then a little challenge to write a tricky number as a sum of odd cubes. So in that little thing, you've introduced students to what perfect numbers are. They've practiced addition, practiced multiplication, practicing cubing, but also problem solving, working together, what the best number to start is, discussing strategy and all that kind of stuff. This was a new one to me, a rep unit, really, really nice. So it's all about writing numbers, amounts of 1, so R2 is 11, R3 is 111 and so on. And some of these are prime, so show which of the ones are not prime by factorising them. So again here you've got a bit of practice of prime numbers, a bit of practice of prime factorising, all wrapped up in an interesting, much more interesting way. I'll show you one of my favourite ones here if I just scroll through these. Hopefully some of these are catching your eye and thinking I must have a look at that. Fibonacci, he pops up everywhere. Lucky numbers, I like this one. This is really, really nice as well. I've never heard of this one before. About finding all the lucky numbers, and you get a bit of a sieve on the go, but it's not your classic one for finding prime numbers. It's about removing. Look at number 2, remove every second number after it. Look at number 3, remove every third number, and so on, and see which ones you're left with, and those that you're left with are lucky numbers. That's really nice, and I bet they've got some interesting properties to them. I must have a little dabble with that myself. And the other one I wanted to show before we discuss about how we might use these in the classroom is, we're just coming down to it after that's good. Non-nugget numbers. Those of you who've seen the number file video on that, absolutely ideal. That's definitely worth a look at. But the one I wanted to look at was this one, a Cunningham chain. I've never heard of this one before. Really, really nice. Take a number, double it, add 1, what do you get? Then double that, add 1, what do you get? And if you start with number 2, then the first 5 numbers in it are all prime, which is fascinating. If you do the next one and double 47 and add 1, you get 95, which isn't prime. But here's one that's hooked me in. There is one of these that's a Cunningham chain of length 6. So, and it says if you start with the number in the 80s, double it, add 1, double it, add 1, and so on, you can actually get a 6-long chain of prime numbers. So again, students investigating basic arithmetic, prime numbers, but also in a more interesting way, and getting them into the kind of heart of pure mathematics. So there's the resource. How can we use this? Well, there's a couple of ways, and one way is just to have it as extension work up your sleeve. So if a student's finished a particular piece of work very quickly, and you don't want to give them any what the next topic is because you want to keep the class together, then just dropping one of these in front of them is a really, really nice thing to do, even if it's nothing to do with the lesson that's going on. In my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. So I'd certainly use it for that. You tend to find that some schools, and I've been in this situation myself, tend to use these as kind of treat lessons towards the end of term. And I'm in two minds with that. I like the idea of that, but I don't think doing this kind of maths should be seen as a treat. This is important maths that all students should be experiencing throughout the year. So what we do at our school is if we have certain topic units, and I've talked about this on my blog when we were writing the new scheme of work, we have certain topic units, and say, for example, area and perimeter, which is what we're doing at the moment with year 7s. And if you finish area and perimeter within those 2 weeks that has been allocated, you don't move on to the next topic, because we want the whole year group moving together at the same time, because it makes joint planning and assessments and all that a lot easier to manage. So say you finish it with 2 lessons to spare, and you're happy that your kids are at the stage you need them to be at that point, then you can do whatever you want for those 2 lessons. And we have a rich lessons folder, which is an archive full of loads of stuff, and it doesn't have to be to do with area and perimeter if you don't want it to be. So that's where I'd be saying to teachers who said to me, I've finished, what should I be doing next? Say, pick out one of these. Give one of these to your students for a lesson and see how they get on with it. Just pop one of these in front of them, Keith numbers, and just have a go and do that for a lesson. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. It's giving kids a different style of mathematics, a different style of lesson. And because investigation and problem solving, they're not separate topics. They're things that students need to be doing consistently, not just tucked away at the end of term. So sorry, rant over there. So I just think this is an absolutely wonderful resource that just needs to be in all schools and needs to be used. It's absolutely fantastic. So hope you found that useful. If you have any particular favourites from there, or you've used it in any particularly interesting way, feel free to nip back onto the resource page and just share your comments in the comment box below, even if it's just to say thank you to the author. And I shall return with a fresh resource of the week next week. Take care and bye for now.